We're joined now by Robert Casey. He is a candidate for Scranton School Board. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And he is cross-filed on the Republican and the Democratic tickets. And we'll get right into the questions. So the first question, money makes the world go round. Let's talk about equitable funding from the state continues to be an issue. Please share your knowledge of the issue and describe how you can impact this as a school director.
Well, first of all, I followed it a couple years ago, and I did a personal thing where I reviewed school districts of similar sizes, such as Allentown, Reading, and I believe Erie was in that, with the same population. Well, they had the same population, and they received hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of dollars more than the Scranton School District. If I'm correct, this is a problem that goes back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, where board members were complaining that we weren't getting our fair share of money. And I blame the whole problem financially in the Scranton School District on the fair funding aspect. Now, I'd like to thank State Senator Marty Flynn, because over the last 4 years, it's my understanding that Senator Flynn has lobbied for the Scranton School District, has past boards lobbied for the Scranton School District, and over the past 4 years, Senator Flynn was able to secure for the Scranton School District over $25 million, and there has been some money that Senator Flynn has brought in and the board has turned down.
Okay. The next topic I want to talk about is safety, another important topic. What is the role the school board plays in ensuring the safety of our children?
Well, that should be one of their number one goals, is safety. And doors need to be secured. Principals and teachers need to be aware. If you see something, say something. Don't take any minor thing. There was often a thought of me thinking that they should work in conjunction with the local police and even have some precincts in open classrooms or in the schools. From what I understand now, they are investing heavily in security cameras and a security force, which I'm all for.
Okay, thank you. Bob, this is a two-part question. So closing a school is a hard decision to make. So the first part of the question is, what factors should be considered when you have to vote on a closure? And the second part is, what factors should not be considered when you're voting on a closure as a school director?
Well, first of all, I haven't had the chance to tell my experience. I spent 3 terms in the 80s on the Scranton School Board. I have made the hard decisions, and one of the decisions that I always took into consideration, especially in the neighborhoods, I'm a firm believer that you should have neighborhood schools. I oppose the closing of the Prescott School, Adams, Sumner, and any other schools that may come about. Some of the considerations that has to go into it is the children. I ride down the street every morning and I see children waiting on the bus stops who are tiny tykes. I think it was a self-created problem in these schools that were brought about by the administration when they took the preschool, which was 80 to 90% federally funded. There was no need to eliminate that. I'd be in favor of bringing back preschool. The other thing that they did, the administration and the board, was they put the 5th graders into the intermediate school. Well, you take out the preschool and you take out the 5th graders, you're going to have empty schools. I'd be in favor of bringing back preschool. That would be one of my top priorities, and bringing back the 5th graders where they belong into the elementary schools.
Okay, thank you. So there are lots of questions that come up about transportation. And this is a two-part question. When I'm talking about transportation, I'm talking about getting the kids back and forth from school, okay? The first question is, discuss any changes you believe are needed to the district's policies on transportation for students. And the second part is, again, what factors would you need to consider as a school board member when voting for change?
Well, some of the things that you need to consider is the age of the students. Getting back to bringing the fifth graders back into the elementary schools. I think that's a must. You want your children to be walking to the schools nearest to them. What you need to consider is hazardous routes. Routes that go by busy thoroughfares, routes that have no sidewalks where the kids could be in danger. Now you could apply to the state to be a hazardous route and get funded for that. I believe the district's policy is 1.5 miles where you get bused. Well, if you have an area such as you do out on Capous Avenue where the kids walk through an industrial zone, that has to be looked at and that has to be addressed. I believe it already is. I'm only using that as an example.
Okay. So this next topic is about banning something. So we're going to, again, a two-part question. So what should go into a process or a decision if a call to ban books or critical race theory or banning anything in particular is floated in front of the school board from any direction, wherever it comes from? What should go into the process for that particular decision? And are these decisions actually up to the school board?
You know, that's a very good question because I sit at night and I see where this district or this area may ban books, especially in Florida. We're there to educate. And if we start educating or banning certain education, then we're on a slippery slope. Each issue should be addressed with common sense, such as you have the right to free speech, but you don't go yelling fire in a theater. You need to approach every issue, no matter what it is, banning, sports, transportation. You need to bring common sense into the equation. So each issue is actually different. Is it the school board's responsibility? Bottom line is the school board is responsible for everything, from making policy all the way down to the whether or not the schools are clean, are the route safety for transportation. I got to be honest with you, when it comes to banning, I'm pretty much against banning books because we're in the educational process. And when you're banning books, you're taking away education. And a lot of the education, especially in books, is our history. And if we don't know where we've been, we don't know where we're going.
Okay, thank you. So, Bob, this next question is the last one that I have for you. Has a bit of an introduction, and then I'll ask the question at the end, okay? Per legislation that was passed in Pennsylvania in April of 2022, the Pennsylvania Department of Education must integrate culturally relevant and sustaining education competencies into teacher preparation, induction, and continuing professional development no later than the 23-24 academic year. And there are 9 competencies, and I'm not going to read them all because they have pretty long names, but it's things like reflecting on one's cultural lens, equitable and differentiated opportunities, culturally relevant learning about microaggressions, those kinds of things. So this is about teacher education, teacher professional development. 2 questions that I have for you on this one is, what impact does or will this rule, this law from Pennsylvania, have on our teachers and students? And what role will the school board have or play in ensuring compliance with Pennsylvania law?
Well, first of all, the compliance is an administrative function. If it's not working properly, then they bring it to the board. The board on this issue should be the last step. As far as educating our teachers in further education, I'm all for that. You have doctors who have to go and get more training. You have electricians who belong to the union. They have to get more training. Our teachers are professionals. They should be treated as such. And the training only enhances our educational process.
Okay. Bob, unfortunately, those are all the questions that I have time for, but you have 2 minutes to talk to the voters and let them know anything about your campaign.
Okay, well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a graduate of Scranton Tech High School. I graduated from Marywood College in 1976 with a degree in business administration. My professional career, I spent 18 years as the director of purchasing, where I wrote, bid, and oversaw contracts, the purchasing of procurement. And I also oversaw our inventory system for a 260-bed nursing home. One of my main concerns is bringing the fifth graders back into the elementary schools, reestablishing our fine preschool program. What people don't realize is when you close a neighborhood school, it not only affects people who have children in school, but it also affects the local residents. Because if you don't have a neighborhood school or a school close by, your property goes down, value goes down, because people don't want to buy in an area that they can't get their kids to school without taking a bus, or they don't want to ship their kids across town.
Okay. That concludes our time with Bob Casey, who is a candidate for Scranton School Board. And Bob is cross-filed on both the Republican and the Democratic tickets. So people in both parties will be able to vote for him on May 16th. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and I'd like to thank the Lackawanna County League of Women's Voters for having me here to share my opinions.
Thanks, we appreciate that.
Thank you.